So I have a friend, John Taylor Jr., who is Reader JNTJR on Instagram. He's a part-time cartoonist. Him and I become friends, and he's a really just a good guy. So recently I went to him and said, hey, I got a bunch of comics. I was going through culling some stuff. Like for instance, I got the Love and Rockets trade paperbacks, came out in the 80s and 90s, so I didn't need the single issues I had, so I gave it to him. Said, you want them? Yeah. So it was just an exchange, and this has happened in the past where I've said, hey, it's not a quid pro quo. You don't have to give me anything back. But then he gave me a ton of comics back. So I just thought I'd kind of show what I got. I posted a quick reel about what I got on Instagram, but this is like, I always say, like the DVD extra kind of thing, just to kind of go over this. So this is called Pocketbook, and there's a consortium of independent comics creators called, they have a brand called Comic Book, and it's XOMIK book. So this is just a bunch of just small independents, a little zine, and John, who has the nickname Haas, drew this one. He signed it here, so that was a nice gift. He also gifted me one of these old school from about 1987, these little digests of Heathcliff. I guess looking back, Heathcliff was sort of like the competitor to Garfield, but I always enjoyed Heathcliff comics too, in the daily newspaper. So I love these little things. These are great to read. One-page gags. You see these in the newspaper. You don't see them as much anymore, but I really enjoy these one-page gags, and I always felt like you always had to do a lot to get a lot into one page. You really had to know what you were doing. So that was pretty cool. So John, he lives in the Maryland area, so he actually lives in Maryland, excuse me. So he went to SPX 2024, and I was thinking about going, but I didn't go for a few reasons, and then I think next year I'm gonna go. So anyway, Desmond Reed was there, and Desmond Reed, he's known for the ColourPop Creamies, and this is a little sketchbook he did, and he was nice enough to sign this because I asked John. John said, is there anything you want me to get? I said, yeah, you can get me these. And he did, but he also had these other zines that Desmond just threw in from a character he created called Scumbag, which doesn't sound like the most appealing thing. And at first when I saw it, it was so different from the ColourPop Creamies, which I really love. I was like, what is this? But over time, the variations of this character and just the way he played with it was really entertaining and quite funny. And I grew to really like this character, so I'm looking forward to reading all these. This is The Timid Soul. This is a reprint of public domain cartoons by H.T. Webster. This was published by Noah Van Sciver under his Envious Press, and these are just this just character that was created. This was in the I want to say 1920s, and they're really cleaned up digitally. And so I remember seeing it. I never ordered it, and then I kind of regretted not ordering it. So I'm glad to have it now. Noah really loves these old time cartoons, and I'm always interested in reading what the creators I like. I'm curious to see what they read. Next, I got Tedward Classic Movies. Now, I read this actually a couple days ago, and it's one story that's done by Josh Penninger, who's the creator of Tedward, and then one story drawn and written by Simon Hanselman. And I think this is a case where when you have the creator of a character, there's a certain tone, a certain look, a certain vibe, for lack of a better word, that only that creator can have. This is why, imagining somebody else doing Peanuts, it's hard to imagine. Or, recently when you've had the changeover from the person drawing Nancy and who does Nancy, because Nancy has a certain look and feel and sense of humor. And so, if you're successful at it, it's without being derivative. It's really interesting. And so, long story short, I think the Josh Penninger story here is hilarious. I love Josh Penninger's humor. The Simon Hanselman story, to me, honest, it's okay. I know Josh like a year or two ago, did a Meg Maganal story, and he did a really great job using Simon's characters, but I don't know if Simon did as good of a job using Tedward here. That's just my personal opinion. It's not a reflection of Simon. I just think that Josh's version of Tedward is a lot better than Simon's or maybe anybody else's. All right. So next I got this, and I was not familiar with this. This is called Michael Mouse. Apparently this was an Instagram cult hit from 2020 to 2022. It's a parody of Mickey Mouse and Daffy Duck. There's actually some very funny legalese written here, just saying it's a parody and explaining what a parody is. This is just written for Disney's lawyers. It's pretty funny, and it gives that old look. And so this is, from what I understand, like a very underground take on Mickey and his characters. So never heard of this, but I'm really looking forward to this. This looks like it'll be a lot of fun. And he gave me 2 issues of Peep Show, issue number 1 and issue number 9. Now, I have one of his trades. I actually have Fair Weather, which this issue is included in Fair Weather. Now, this is issue 1. I don't have it. I never really got to Joe Man until you know, after he passed away, unfortunately. But I've really grown to love Peep Show. And one thing about the comics is that, yeah, John and Corley made these trays, but they made these trays and they were like this big. So they were nice and compact, but they're smaller. And I've never been a big fan of smaller trays, because the art is drawn a certain way with the size of the panels and all that, based on the way it's going to be printed. So when you make a small, I think it loses something. So I'm looking forward to reading these in the larger size. Same with this. I'm a huge Joe Matt fan. Much too late, but I'm glad I finally got smart. Okay. This is issue 11 of Weirdo. And so there's a Kim Deitch story in here, and I've always heard a lot about Kim Deitch. Never read Kim Deitch. And there are some Robert Crumb. There's a Robert Crumb story here. There's a couple of them, actually. I'm really fascinated with Robert Crumb's art, especially in the 80s. I think that's when he really started coming into his own. But I don't like a lot of the late 80s, early 90s stuff that honestly just got rapey. I just thought it was a little bit too much. But you can't deny that this art is absolutely fantastic. So this is like a take on Goldilocks. And there's other creators here too. So I still dabble in the underground. There's some creators I do really like, so I'm always eager to read more of it to see if there's anybody else I discover that I really, really dig. This is Heaven, number 1, signed by Katie Skelly. This is from 2021. Katie Skelly is someone who I've never really read a lot. I mean, I know who she is. You know, I'm familiar with her, but I've never really had a chance to read her work. So I'm kind of curious to read this and see how this goes. And John also gave me a program guide for SPX 2024. As I said, I kind of regret not going. I mean, it was just going to be a hassle to go, but unfortunately. But I really think it's going to be a nice event. I'm looking forward to going next year and meeting up with John, and hopefully get a chance to go meet up with John and other people. So on the trial run here at the end of this video, we're getting close to the end. This is Desperate Pleasures by M.S. Harkness, and it actually came with a signed book plate. I never read M.S. Harkness before until last year when I got Time Under Tension. I think Time Under Tension is an awesome comic. Really a big fan of her work. So I'm really looking forward to this. I love her unapologetic storytelling, you know, being very honest about her life. but at the same time writing interesting stories. And I think with Time Under Tension, she did a wonderful job with the physicality of MMA fight. I just thought that whole sequence in that book was really outstanding. So I'm looking forward to this. This is one I got. This is called The World of Chick. And it's funny because I used to have this book, and then a friend of mine was interested in it, so I shared it with him, so now I get it back. And this is basically, at the time this was printed, this is really like a catalog. It's not a collection of chick tracts. It's a catalog that looks like it was typed of all the chick tracts that were in existence at that time. And I know they actually come with Chick Tracts comics. And I remember the one that I got had one in Tagalog. It was crazy. So, and the funny thing is, I've always heard that, people say, oh, I was at a turnpike stop, or I was on a roadside stop, or I was at the laundromat, and I found somebody left them there. I have never encountered one of these in my life. I'm looking forward to trying to encounter some so I could just collect them, because if you ever read these things are insane. This is basically like, unless you follow the Bible 100%, and if you sin in the slightest fashion, you will burn in hell. These books are insane, at least to me. Next, he gave me a copy of Black Hole. Now, I read Black Hole from the library in 2020. I remember that right before everything shut down for the pandemic, I reserved and checked out about 15 graphic novels in the library, and then like a day or two later, the library closed. So I remember reading this, but I was thinking recently about maybe I should reread this, because I read it 4 years ago. I liked it, but I think I was a lot less informed about comics in that 4 years than I am now. So that, compared to now. So I'm just really curious about this, and I'm thinking about reading it again just to see if it still holds up. Because I did read this trilogy that was like an ode to Tintin, and I'll be honest, everybody loves that book, that series. I thought it was okay. Maybe I just don't get it because I don't understand the relevance of Tintin. I mean, I know the relevance, but I never really read it. But I just didn't. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was as great as some people, made it sound like. But I'm curious to read this again, so I'm glad I got it. And actually, it's a copy that I guess John got signed by Charles Burns. So looking forward to this. But I'm looking forward to reading this because I want to see how it holds up in my mind. Okay, so next is The Lady Who Used to Feed Him Has Moved Away. This is just a collection of what it says, incredibly sad dog cartoons. And these are all public domain things, a lot by H.T. Webster, some from Claire Briggs, just from the 20s, just like, just really sad dog cartoons, or, not dogs being hit and beaten, but still, dogs and animals kind of like being left alone, or, like this one, Puppies for Sale. And then the puppies are here, and then the mom is just here really sad because they're selling away her puppies, that kind of thing. So I can probably only read so much of this before I get sad. I don't have dogs, but I love dogs. I think dogs are great. The cover is by Noah Van Sciver. So after Webster. So I'm still curious to read this, but this is probably something I'm going to visit a little bit, then I'll stop, visit a little bit, and then I'll stop. And lastly, by Johnny Ryan, Who Roped My Horse. I've read a little Johnny Ryan. I saw that little animated short that he made a few years ago. I know that his work is there to be not scandalous, but to like push buttons. And I understand that that's what art is for. But I always got the impression there was more to it than just the shock value. And this is an opportunity for me to read this to see if there really is that, or if it's just shock for the sake of shock. I don't think there is, but we're going to find out. And that's really it. This is a very eclectic, very unusual, great collection of comics and graphic novels. I think I'm going to have to take John out to dinner whenever I do, in fact, meet him, to thank him for all this because, I told him, it's not a quid pro quo, as I said, and he's like, yeah, screw it anyway. Here's a ton of books. And this is all stuff that I think I'm going to really like. Really looking forward to all this. That's it. I don't know if you have any questions or you have any insight to these books because a lot, except for the Black Hole, I've never read any of this work. I am very familiar with M.S. Harkness and a few others, but let's see what we have. Anyway, thanks.